So sometimes we think about mowing our lawn and we want to answer the question, should I leave my grass clippings on the lawn or should I bag them up and remove them off site? So today we're going to talk a little bit about that and talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each. And so usually what we like to recommend is that we don't bag our grass clippings. If we think about a city municipal waste system, up to 20% of municipal waste can be from yard waste. And so if we think about mowing our lawn and all the clippings that we can generate, sometimes this issue of a thatch layer comes up. So what is a thatch layer? Well, in the lawn there can be a thatch layer, which is just dead and decaying organic matter, and that can build up over time in the lawn. And what it will do is if it builds up too much, it will reduce water infiltration and air infiltration into the soils and really cause harm to your lawn. Now, a little bit of thatch is okay, but too much thatch is where we get into the problem. So if it's maybe a 1/4 inch of thatch or even a 1/2 inch of thatch, that's okay, but once it gets over a 1/2 inch up to 1 inch or more, then you can have problems. So then the question is, well, if I let my grass clippings fall on the lawn, is that gonna make my thatch layer problem worse? And the answer is no, it's not. So that thatch layer is a lot of, think about stems or stolons, that tough plant material that doesn't decay very rapidly, whereas your grass clippings are all leaf material. And the leaf material can be 90% water, and so that is going to decompose quite readily. And in those grass clippings, they have a lot of nutrients inside. And so if we think about our lawns again and the things we're going to do to them in the spring and the summer here in Oklahoma, we're probably going to have fertilization as one of our practices. Well, if we let the grass clippings fall back on the lawn, it can help reduce the need for fertilizer. And so if you look at an individual leaf from your lawn and you were to analyze that, you could have 4% nitrogen, 1% phosphorus, and 2% potassium in that grass clipping. And if we think about a fertilizer bag, it has 3 numbers on it. What do those 3 numbers stand for? Well, they stand for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So you've got a little bit of fertilizer returning back to your yard just by letting the grass clippings stay there. And so what about environmental quality or water issues? Well, then if we think about our grass clippings, and so if we're pushing those off-site to the street and then the rain comes and those literally just go down the drain, well, now we're adding nutrients back into our water system, maybe through the storm water, and could eventually even end up in drinking water sources. So we usually don't want to recommend that you put grass clippings into the sidewalk or blow them out to the street. And rather than that, we would, when you're done mowing, recommend that you take a blower and blow those clippings that may have gone into the street, blow them back into the yard so that they can decompose right there in your yard and add those nutrients back to the soil. So one of the tough things that we have to consider when wanting to leave grass clippings on the lawn is how often should we mow? And what we want to do is mow often enough so that the grass clippings aren't building up and maybe stopping our mower or making it where it bogs down and won't work very well for us. So one of the things you can do is you can use a mower that has a mulching blade, or a mower like this one, which even has what they call a 3-way blade. So this blade can be used as a mulching blade, or you can change the mower settings and you can block the chute and all it does is mulch. You can open the chute where it won't come out the back, but it'll blow out the side, just like a regular mower. Or you can close the side and open up the back and put on your bag and have it be a bagging mower. So winter times that we might have to bag something up. Well, if you've gone too far in between mowings, you may have to bag it up just so that you're not leaving a pile of clippings in the yard. This is especially true for maybe a yard service or something like that. If it rained maybe for several days straight, couldn't get out in time, they may have to bag it up. If that's the case, we just recommend you let those clippings dry out. If you have like a city where they'll compost it, that's great, take it to the compost pile. If you have your own compost pile, let those clippings dry out and then add them to your compost pile. The reason we don't want to add them wet is because if you add them to a pile when they're wet, all the bacteria and everything in there, it'll turn black and stinky and gunky on you and kind of mess things up. But if you can let them dry out before you store them, think about, in Oklahoma we hay a lot. So that's how you would treat hay. Try to treat your grass clippings the same way. Let them dry out before you pile them up and try to compost them. And then it's okay through that process of compost if they get wet. So the other thing we need to consider is what type of grass do we have? And so if we have, like what we're standing on right here, a cool season lawn, such as a tall fescue or Kentucky bluegrass, you know, our mowing height's going to be a little bit different than, say, if we had a warm season lawn like a Bermuda grass. Well, for our state, Oklahoma, most of our lawns are actually going to be Bermuda grass. And with Bermuda grasses, you can typically have two main types that you'll find, either a hybrid Bermuda grass or a common Bermuda grass. And so most lawns are going to have the common Bermuda grass on them. For common Bermuda grass, or for Bermuda grasses in general, you know, the mowing height can range from a 1/2 inch to 3 inches. But the 1/2 inch mowing height is usually going to be a sports field or a golf course or something like that. Really not recommended for a home lawn. So for a home lawn situation, you're probably going to shoot between 1 and 2 inches height of cut for that Bermuda grass lawn. Now, tall fescue, on the other hand, is a cool season grass. It does not like our summers very well in Oklahoma. It does quite well in the fall and in the spring, especially with fall plantings. But the summertime, it just can't handle the heat very well. So since that's the case, we don't recommend you put those in the full sun if possible. But a lot of times, like here, you see trees around. This is a shady area. Tall fescue can do well. We want to let those grow a little bit taller, let it capture more sunlight here in the shade area. And so we'd recommend you mow those higher, maybe at 3 or even 4 inches height of cut. So we can recommend a Bermuda grass 1 to 2 inches, a tall fescue, say 3 inches here in Oklahoma. There are a couple other minor grasses you might have in your yard. One is zoysia grass. It's a warm season grass similar to Bermuda, and the mowing height on that's probably going to be, again, 1 to 2 inches or even up to 3 inches. There's different types of zoysia. The most common type in Oklahoma is called a japonica type, or zoysia japonica, and the recommended mowing height for that one's going to be 2 or 3 inches height of cut. For the buffalo grasses, that's a native warm season grass. It does quite well in Oklahoma in certain situations. And in those situations, if you have it, probably the recommended mowing height for that one, it's considered a more lower maintenance type grass in some situations. And so you're looking at 3 or 4 inches height of cut, or just not mowing it at all. So when do we mow the grass? Now that we know our proper mowing height, we want to mow the grass based on the 1/3 rule. And that basically means you want to remove no more than 1/3 of the leaf material at any mowing. So let's take an example where we have Bermuda grass. We want to maintain at 2 inches height of cut. Well, if we mow it when it's 3 inches tall, and you take 1/3 of 3 inches, that's going to be 1 inch. So 3 inches tall, we mow that down 1 inch. Now we're down at 2 inches, and we removed 1/3 of the leaf material. So if our mowing height is 2 inches, we always want to mow before it gets taller than 3 inches, okay? Now what about, say, with a tall fescue yard, you want to mow it at 3 inches. Now it's a little bit different. With that one, you got a little bit more leeway. You can wait till it gets up to 4.5 inches, and then you want to mow it back down to 3 inches. So before it reaches greater than 4.5 inches, mow it down to 3 inches, and that's 1/3 of the leaf material being removed. For the buffalo and the zoysia, it's going to be very similar, and the key is try to mow it in a timely fashion. So in Oklahoma, that may mean to mow every 7 days during the growing season. So if we're not able to keep up with that, and we do have to remove a little bit more leaf material, for one, it could scalp the grass, or if we are not bagging the yard, then we're going to leave those big windrows out there, either from our mulching blade or from our blower, and then that's going to cover up the grass, and basically whatever's under those windrows is going to die out. So we're not going to have a high quality yard if we don't mow it in a timely fashion. For more information about lawn care, see our OSU fact sheets.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.